All right, folks. So this is our January 20th return to the spring semester second week check-in. You're here with me, Christina Quinn, Director of CSU Rights, and Kimmy Conroe, Assistant Director of CSU Rights. Awesome. Thanks, Kimmy. So welcome back, right? It's a new year and a new semester. It's full of wonderful opportunities. One of them is that you get to reconnect with your cohort. During this time this week, please share your drafts. It could be the script, or if you have it as a talk already kind of prepared, share your talk, and any draft of a slide visuals that you have. That way you can get some feedback. As a reminder, we sent out an email and are asking for a photo and a description of your grad work while you're here, whatever research or creative work or entrepreneurship or scholarship that you do. And then just a reminder that February 3rd, 4th, and 5th, there are 3 days of preliminary rounds in the afternoon. And so we'll need to find out who can participate in which one based on your schedule. And then the final competition is February 11th, 5 to 7 p.m. You can find additional information, and Kimmy's already popped it in the chat on the webpage, the 3MT Challenge and Training Program. And we have made some changes since we last viewed it, but it's basically all the materials. And what you'll find is for each week, you'll get the any materials that we share. Notice that those links, they show up as green, but they're not super bright, but the view presentation recording and download the participant guide, those are links that should open for you. If you have difficulties, please reach out and we can help with that. So this week we are working on the drafts and feedback and practice scripts and feedback. So just keep working where you are. Wherever you are is great. And I think it's helpful to take a look at other 3MT recordings and talks out there. You can find them posted from many different universities, including the University of Queensland. We did take a look at one at the information training session, but just kind of look and see what appeals to you, what styles you might want to explore and experiment with communicating your research or scholarship or artistry in new ways. And so you might find some new opportunities that kind of seem like they would fit you. It's kind of like trying on new clothes and you're like, oh yeah, that would be a cool idea. I like that. Not that you're stealing anyone's ideas, you're not stealing their research or their content, but you're kind of taking a look at how it is that they've crafted their story and crafted their slide and find something that kind of works for you on how it is that they've arranged their material, how it is that they've used intonation and their voice, for example, or how it is that they've arranged content on a slide and imagery. It's really helpful to take a look at that. And yet, at the same time, you don't want to have that overtake everything that you're doing this week. It's our first week back, so some of you may have a kind of lighter schedule, but some of you may already be in the thick of it. And so just taking into account what time you have and what's available. Don't spend too much time looking at other people's 3MTs. Spend most of the time working on your own 3MT. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about feedback because that's what you're going to be starting to do in your cohort groups and meetings this week. So corrective feedback, there are 4 types of feedback that I'm going to talk about. One is corrective, and that's where you as a reviewer or a listener, you kind of make corrections on the page, or you give them you just fix it. And so you would be fixing the slide, for example. We're not going to do too much corrective feedback in these unless you're asking someone very specifically, can you run through this and give me some edits? Directive feedback, there may be some of that, but that's where you as a listener and a cohort partner would be giving some feedback on pointing out maybe some problem areas and offering specific suggestions on where and what to fix. And then the writer and the speaker goes back and applies those. There's interactive feedback where listener and reviewer kind of talks about the text and offers kind of advice and asks questions and discusses areas of confusion. The writer does a lot on deciding what they're going to take of that advice and then addressing those areas. And then there's evaluative feedback where a reviewer or a listener, colleague, makes a judgment call, and they identify the quality of something by saying it's either good or bad. I mean, you can think about a numerical score or a grade. Those are all kind of evaluative types of feedback, and it may affect how it is that a writer interprets that and goes on with their revision. For the most part, though, in your groups, you're going to be doing interactive type of feedback where you're having a conversation about the work that someone has produced, and it's really, really helpful to have that conversation. And it's also helpful to practice giving feedback in ways that another person can hear, not as criticism about who they are or the quality of work that they've done, but actually like what would help make their slide, their presentation, their talk or script better. What would make it better for, and we'll talk about judging criteria in just a moment. So that's kind of where you are. It is helpful, though, to have in mind the judging criteria. And this here is a sample or portion of the letter that judges get when they are first coming to understand the 3MT structure. And so we have judges who will be coming from industry, some donors to the university, some folks. Sometimes we have graduate student council folks or postdocs or faculty. And so those judges are all given a packet of information and some just reminders if they've participated in the 3MT before as a judge, or just new information. And they're just reminded of the same rules that you have already, is that you only have one slide is permitted. There's no additional sound or videos, no props or costumes. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes max. Some of you may already be timing yourself. They need to be spoken word, no poems, raps, or songs. That they commence from a stage space, that they start as soon as the presenter starts speaking, and that their decisions, grouped as a panel, are final, and there's no discussion afterwards, for example, no negotiation or appealing to the judges, and that they're going to be judging based on two categories: comprehension, content, and engagement and communication. And there's a total score of 20. And this is what the score sheet looks like. You can use these in your cohorts if you want to start kind of playing around with that. I don't really recommend it for early stage, though. It's just helpful to be aware of the criteria by which you will be judged. Ultimately, I think it's better at this point in time for you to have that interactive content and conversation. But when you're asking for feedback on your script or your slide, it's really helpful to know how it is that it's going to be judged. And again, that comprehension and content, there's a score of 10, which that there's a clear background and significance to the research or scholarly question or artistry, and we will add that, by the way. Presentation provided clear positionality to the presenter, research, scholarship, artistry, and approach. The presenter presentation clearly described strategy, design, or results and analysis, and it clearly described the conclusions, outcomes, and impact. So really you're after impact of the work that you've done. And then the second category is engagement and communication. So a lot of that goes to your presentation. The oration was delivered clearly, the language was appropriate to a non-specialist audience. And since you're in groups and cohorts where I think there's only one group where there are two, or maybe there's a couple groups that we will be able to tell you, where you might have somebody who's similar to your field, where you might be an expert in that field. But again, approach listening to one another as non-experts, and you're going to be just kind of your average layperson listening to a talk. The PowerPoint slide was well defined and enhanced for the presentation, and that the presenter conveyed enthusiasm for their work, right? And that you were able to maintain the audience's attention. On the plus side, it's only 3 minutes, right? So that's helpful. It's not like you have to do it for 30 minutes. All right. So that's helpful to keep in mind. But when you're asking for and giving advice in your cohorts, it might be helpful to just keep in mind some additional advice. One is that it's really important for you to be present and there. And so you haven't already, connect with your cohort and confirm this week's meeting time. At that meeting, set a timekeeper. If you have 4 people or 5 people in your cohort, you want to make sure that everyone has an equal amount of time and that not one presentation or person is dominating all of that time, right? So you want to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to share and get some feedback. Focus on listening to your colleagues What is it that they're asking for? What do they need support with on their project? And then you're providing feedback again from a non-expert audience perspective. So it's really easy because we all have a non-audience perspective. And so you don't have to know about their area to give feedback. You just kind of, you can talk about content style, the arrangement, the flow, the presentation, whatever it is that kind of strikes you. But I would highly recommend that each person articulate as you're going through and giving your presentation, or you're sharing your draft, or you're sharing kind of drafts of your slide, that you explain the 2 or 3 things that would be most helpful for you to know about. Are you concerned about the flow? Are you concerned about the arrangement of ideas or the imagery on the slide? And are you concerned about how well they work together, the content that you're sharing in your talk versus the content that shows up on the slide? So thinking about the kind of what it is that you would be most helpful for you to receive in feedback will help your colleagues give you kind of focused, attuned feedback. And then take notes on the details and advice that you wish to remember and support for your revision process. So that way you have a clear memory. Some of you, if you're meeting virtually, you could record the session and everyone could have feedback that way. So it's up to you to decide how it is that you deliver, and how you meet, and how it is that you deliver feedback, and keep track of it. All right. Last, just a reminder to email your photo and a statement of your research, scholarship, artistry, entrepreneurship. And so you can think about just quick, my research in construction management, civil engineers, or engineering seeks solutions for a more sustainable built environment. It just needs to be quick and consumable, something that if someone else from another department or university was looking at your profile as a 3MT participant, that they'd be able to go, oh yeah, that seems like a cool area of research or study in artistry. And so this week, that we're first look back, enjoy your cohort meetings and crafting your presentations. And we're going to stop recording and then open it up for a little bit of Q&A.